Today, I'm going to show you how to use gradient maps in Photoshop. And make sure you stick around to the end for a bonus tip on how to use these in a really practical way. All right, so to add a gradient map to any photo, just open it in Photoshop and click on this button here for a new adjustment layer and select gradient map. Now you'll see this default Photoshop one pops up, but if you click this little button here, you'll see these folders open up and they have all of these default gradient maps that come with Photoshop. So when you click on one, you'll see how it changes the color of the photo. Now, if you look at this gradient here, the left side represents the dark tones of the photo and the right side represents the lights and the whites. So with this photo, it's got a dark background, so it's going to change it to the pinks, and the brighter highlights of her skin are going to change to the blues. Now you can click on this actual gradient and come in here and then start editing by adding points just by clicking just underneath this gradient slider. And you can see that it's getting a little bit weird because I've got it going from dark to light, but there's a bright white in the middle, so it's starting to blow out her face. What you want to do is just double click here and maybe find like a good in-between color so that this will ramp very smoothly. Now this one might still be a little bit too dark for the end, so I'm going to change it to something brighter, and then I'm going to add a pink here and then change the far left to a much darker color, and then it starts to really take on those true tones from what this portrait looks like. Then you can slide these little guys over and you can see that it starts to change how these colors ramp. Now I've got my blue much further over on the light side of the scale, so it's getting a little bit more natural skin tone. So you can make all of these adjustments that you want. You can add any in-between colors just by clicking around and changing what these look like. So I added a little bit of a darker blue in there, and it's really creating this nice clean look. So if you start to add like strange color combinations over to the side, you'll get these more like kind of acid effects where they kind of get super neon and crazy and contrast by dragging these over. So you can even grab this little point in the middle and adjust where these two colors are going to blend. Now you can see it's a lot harsher between that blue and that green just from changing this midpoint. So yeah, there are a ton of these default swatches that come with Photoshop, but I actually created a new pack of 30 gradient maps that I created that I'm going to be selling on my website for just $3. So let's check those out. So I'm going to open up my NickCube maps here and just click through some of these that I've created. They're inspired from a lot of different things like TV shows, movies, general photography, lighting, and things like that. So this one's kind of a little bit Stranger Things. This one I called Euphoric. And then there are some that are just like solid, like this one's called Nightmare. I've got this neon one with the blues and greens, and then some more tonal ones like this cactus color. Now, not every gradient map works perfectly with every single photo, but that's why it's so cool that it's easy to just get in here and start playing with the editor, because now you can just add the gradient swatch with just one click, but then you can come in here and edit it and refine every single piece of it so that it works perfectly with your specific image. Here's another photo that's completely different from the other one, so let's add a gradient map and see what happens. This one, I think it looks awesome. I love how the highlights of the skin take on that super bright side of this map for those yellows and greens, and I think that just elevates this photo into a completely different style immediately. And here's one with a good white background, so I'm gonna add something like one of these pastels, and I mean, immediately it just becomes something so different, super cool. You can add some text to this, and like in no time, you've got a really awesome stylized poster. So I try to include a lot of diverse styles in my gradient maps that I made that'll work with any kind of photo that you might be using. But of course, you can always go in and refine them and make it completely perfect. I think gradient maps are super useful. I use them every single day while I'm working, and I love the way that they can change the vibe and the tone of your design with just one click. So yeah, they're super easy to make. You can definitely make these yourself, but I thought it would be super cool to release my 30 pack for just $3, so it'd be super easy and accessible and help you guys out to get through your designs really fast. All right, I've got one more bonus tip before we go. Let's say you're doing a composite, like you've got a subject like this and you want to put them over a different background. And so I put her in this room here, and these two photos don't really match. They don't go together straight out of the box. So I'm going to throw a little bit of blur on the background to give it some force, depth of field. Then I'm going to throw this gradient map over them, and boom, you see that? It just matches them perfectly. If you're working on something like this, even if you have multiple layers in your composite, you don't have to waste a lot of time trying to make them match before you stylize them. So it's really great if you know you're already going to be stylizing something like this. I mean, look at how it matches the blacks and everything perfectly, because I only have one tone of black in my gradient map. so I don't have to do any adjustments beforehand to get these things to look so cohesive together. All right, I hope that really helped you figure out how to use gradient maps and how to use them for your specific projects. Now, if you want to see a quick way to export different versions of the same Photoshop file, watch this video. All right, guys, that's it for this one, and like always, we'll catch you on the next one.